Alright, what's good everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be talking about using the iPhone 16 Pro Max as my main computer, so let's get into it. Every year for the last couple years, Apple has been putting out the most powerful chips in terms of like just efficiency, power, everything under the sun when it comes to what you would want in a processor chip for a mobile device. The iPhones have been super powerful, some of the best gaming smartphones on the market, like in terms of general gaming and even high-end gaming. The iPhones have just been amazing. And then when it comes to video editing, in my experience, the iPhones have been the best devices to use for mobile video editing. So with that being said, iPhones are some of the most conflicting devices for me personally, because it has so much power underneath it, inside of it, so much capability, yet the software is just feels so limited in terms of like what I would personally do with a smartphone, or what I would personally do with all that power and efficiency. Even still, the iPhone 16 Pro Max tempted me to try and use it as my main computer. So this is my experience with it. First things first, iPhones don't have a proper display out mode. It doesn't have an equivalent like Samsung Dex or a Stage Manager. And then on top of that, it just doesn't have the ability to adjust how it displays out. Alright, so if I connect my iPhone 16 Pro Max to the external screen like this is what happens. So this is obviously a lot bigger, and it's honestly a lot more usable because of how big it is, and it works. But as you can see, these black borders at the top and the bottom, like it's literally almost there, bro, in terms of like being like an actual computer. Like this phone is so close, but it's so far away at the same time. Like the software is just so limiting in terms of like everything else, like productivity. Like even just this, like look at this, it's plugged into the external screen and it does not rotate. You can't rotate the home screen. It's not like friendly for productivity type setups and external screens. There's no multitasking, there's no floating windows, there's no split screen, there's no like just general productivity things that I use on all my devices. On my Legion Go, my computer, I have multiple windows open. I can do so many different things, like check my email at the same time as checking my calendar. On my Android devices, my Samsung devices, split screen very easily, floating windows, check all those things, same as I would on a computer. On Samsung devices, even the Samsung phones that don't have Samsung Dex, like the Z Flip 6 and 5, they can still display out when you connect a cord to it. Most Samsung devices can display out when you cast with the external screen, and you can adjust the aspect ratio and stuff like that to make it fit the whole screen. Even if it's not Samsung Dex, it's still fitting the whole screen. iPhones just don't have that at all. Even the non-Pro iPads that don't have an M series chip. This alone makes it super limiting in terms of being a main computer, because when you connect it to an external screen, you're just getting a mirror image. And you know, like you can definitely work with it because it supports an external keyboard, and it has some weak mouse support. Like you can use a mouse with it, but I'll get into that later. And you know, you can kind of use a mouse and keyboard and, you know, get stuff done, but it's gonna definitely hurt your head a lot more than a normal computer. And even the iPad, the sizing is not good because it's not optimized for an external screen like that. So the phone is rotated horizontally, and things just don't fit well. Even when you're using the phone horizontally on an iPhone, things are not made for that. So sizing is an issue on an external screen. One of my main use cases for, you know, these mobile devices, one of the main things I'm trying to accomplish is video edit. And like I mentioned earlier, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is amazing at video editing. It's very smooth, very powerful, no stutters or hiccups, and it just works normally with LumaFusion. But on the external screen, like I said, the sizing is very bad, so it's very small, very cramped. And although it does work and it's definitely usable, like you can definitely get used to this and you can make it like a main video editing machine, it's just kind of annoying to use. And like I really, like personally, like if I have access to something better just in terms of like sizing, I'll probably use that instead. So that experience is just so bittersweet, because like I said, powerful device, can handle it, it's very smooth in terms of running the program and video editing itself, but the way that it's optimized for external screens and even on its own screen, because it's so small, right? Like with a Z Fold device, a folding phone, I have a iPad mini type size device, and I can video edit so much more comfortably on those. Even though they're not as powerful or not as stable in video editing, the experience just feels so much better because of the bigger screen. So yeah, video editing is just not, it's not on external screen for the iPhone. So yeah, going back to the mouse support, so technically iPhone's got mouse support, but it's not necessarily like full mouse support. It's kind of like a accessibility feature that's like, it's not really mouse support, but it's there. Like you can connect the mouse, you gotta turn on some accessibility features, and then it will start working kind of, but like it doesn't feel as smooth as it does on the iPad. It doesn't work as anywhere as good as it does on a Samsung device, for example, or Android in general, because those devices actually support mouse input like natively. So when you're moving around the UI and stuff like that, it's not going to be as smooth. You gotta adjust the speed, and even if you adjust the speed, it's not that nice. My main issue with the mouse on the iPhone, especially on the external screen, is depending on which way your phone is oriented while you connect the mouse, when you move the mouse, it's going to be stuck in that orientation. So for example, if I connect the mouse while the iPhone is horizontal and I rotate the iPhone to be in portrait orientation or vertical orientation, the mouse will only be able to move on half of the screen because it thinks that the phone screen is still in landscape mode. So you only have like a small square size because it's using half of the screen. It's only going as high as the phone screen when it's in landscape. Half of the screen is just useless with the mouse. So the only way to fix that is to disconnect the mouse and then connect it back when the phone is in vertical orientation. And then likewise, if you connect it while it's in vertical, then it will only work in that orientation if you rotate the phone. This brings me to another problem. iPhones also don't have landscape mode for like just the home screen. Only like I think the iPhone 8 Plus was like the last iPhone to do that. So this is an issue because when you connect to an external screen, it's just mirroring the screen. So like let's say you want a video edit with something like LumaFusion, you're gonna rotate the iPhone for more space to maximize your space on the external screen. And if you leave LumaFusion to go and do something else, the whole screen is going to go back to vertical orientation by default on the home screen. Like that's just how it is. If you're navigating the settings app, you know, it's just going to go to vertical orientation. So when that happens, you basically can't use the mouse. You got to navigate by touching the phone screen with your fingers manually, and it basically just takes you out of this desktop mode experience that you're trying to have with the iPhone. All that to say is that the iPhone is not optimized at all for this, and we know this, but this is just my experience using it. All right, so the next thing I did after that was, after failing to use it, plugged in like a little computer device at my desktop. I plugged it out and I'm like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Can't use a keyboard and mouse to video edit with the iPhone. And yeah, like video editing in your hand, it works pretty good. Like if you're doing smaller videos, you can definitely cut through a video very fast and edit it and stuff like that. Put some effects, edit the audio. Those kinds of videos where it's just one track, you're good. You won't have too much issues. But the issues come in for me personally is when you need to add multiple, you know, video clips, layer them and put them in different tracks on top of each other and stuff like that. When the timeline gets a little bit more crazy, it's like the phone screen size is just too small for that kind of, you know, video and that kind of work. And like I said before, it's definitely possible. The phone is powerful enough, it will handle it well in my experience, but the phone screen is just so small, bro. Just I can't get over that. I can't get over the experience. It's not a good experience. So although it works, it's definitely annoying to deal with. So video editing only worked to the extent of like simple videos on the iPhone for me. I did do a couple of more in-depth videos that, you know, require different multiple tracks and layering and putting videos on top of each other and stuff like that, but those experiences weren't the best. Exporting times they're on par with like the iPads and, you know, other devices. Like it's not bad at exporting 4K video, even longer ones. I have no issue with that. It's literally just a small screen and the optimization on external screens. So now that is that. Video editing is like the majority of what I want these devices to do. But aside from that, like let's say just using the phone for work in general, iPhones are just terrible work phones in my experience. On the iPhone, I can't, bro. You gotta do one thing at a time. Even something as simple as copying and pasting something. So let's say I go on the internet. Let's say I want to copy this text to another app. I have to copy and then go to the other app. Then I can paste it. But then let's say I want to copy something else. Now I got to go back to the other app and copy the other stuff. And then I have to go back to the Notes app and then paste it. So like with split screen and float windows, this process would have been super easy because you open up both of them, both pages, both apps, and then boom, 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 very quickly, very easy. But even if there was no split screen and no floating windows, what makes it super long and tedious on the iPhone is the fact that there's no clipboard. You can't use a clipboard on iPhone, so you can only copy one thing at a time. So if I copy some text, then that's it. That's my clipboard is filled up with just that. So I can only copy and paste one thing at a time on an iPhone, and you have to bounce back and forth between apps to get that done. So like let's say I'm working on an email and I'm trying to, you know, reference that in a document that I'm writing up. I really have to keep going back and forth between apps like this. On Android, and literally any other platform that I work on or work off of, even Macs, you can have multiple windows and go back, and you don't have to jump back and forth like this. Everything will just be there, copy and paste, very simple, very easy, get it done within like, you know, a minute or two. The productivity side of it is just very lacking. So that is a major flaw for the iPhone, and that is a major reason for why personally I can't use this as my one and only device. And it depends on the kind of work you do. Like for me, you know, I'm often like copying and pasting, you know, text from one app to another app, or I'm researching and I'm, you know, calculating stuff, and often I need to interact with more than one app at a time. You have to copy one set of text, paste it, and then go back to the other app, copy another set of text, paste in the other app, then go back to the other. So you're going back and forth with the iPhone. That's it. That's the workflow, like swiping between multiple apps 100 times to get simple things done. It's just not good as a work phone. Like if your work is literally just typing up documents or typing up, you know, notes or something like that, and that's all you need on your screen, then you're good. You can do that very easily. But if you need even just like to copy and paste something from another app or from Google, like it's just so much more work than at literally any other device. A Mac, a Windows computer, an Android, Linux. It's just so much more work to do something that requires more than one app on an iPhone. And like you might, like people think like, oh well, not everyone's a power user, stuff like that, but like it even trickles down to the simple things. Like so many times when I'm logging into an app or something like that, and I need a code for two-factor verification, the iPhone, like people say, oh, you know, it pops up on the keyboard. That happens probably, like for me in the things that I do, the apps that I use, even banking apps, the code pops up in the keyboard probably like 1 out of like 5 times, you know. Like it doesn't happen as often as people like to say it does. And then even like a lot of things use email for verification, right? So when I get the emails, it doesn't pop up on the keyboard at all, so I have to copy from the email. And then like depending on how long the code is, I might forget all the characters, so then I gotta go check the email, or you know, if the notification gets dismissed or whatever, I have to go back to the email and I'm swiping through apps again. And then the notification shade is very intrusive. You have to pull it all the way down to see, you know, your notifications. And yeah, it's just not a good workflow for literally more than one thing at a time. And I know that like that sounds worse than it actually is. People will hear that and be like, oh, you're being old, it's just a phone, whatever. But when you actually like use it in the real world, and like you experience being able to do so many other things, and I'm saying so many other things, but like I don't mean like necessarily having 10 apps on your screen at one time, even though on Samsung devices you can do that. That's not what I mean. I mean like even just simple things like copying a code. Like it's just generally more work on the iPhone. Using the cameras, if you want to change the settings, you have to leave the camera app, go to the settings app, find the camera section in the settings app, and then find that setting that you want to change for the camera, then go back to the camera app. On Android, you literally just press the wheel in the top left, and then you can go to the camera settings and find it very easily, like way less steps. And generally with the 16 Pro Max, if I want to change a setting, if I want to do something, it's just so much more work on the 16 Pro Max than any other device I've used. And then, you know, shortcuts are really cool on iPhone. I think they're really underutilized by most people, and like I think you can do a lot of cool things. Like I have even like Google Assistant shortcuts so that I can control my Google devices in my house, like my smart lights, through Google Home. Like I'm doing that on my iPhone with some shortcuts. That's pretty cool. But to set all that stuff up and make your iPhone like semi more convenient, you have to like spend like literally like a couple hours setting up a bunch of different shortcuts. And even then it's like you can't even access the shortcuts in like fully, like it's very slow. Like you can set it so that you tap the back of your phone twice, and then it'll show the shortcut list that I have. Like I created like a quote-unquote edge panel type of thing. You tap the back of the phone and that will pop up. But even like the animation is slow, and then when it pops up, you gotta select something, you gotta scroll through it. And then sometimes when you tap the back of the phone, it just doesn't work. You gotta get it right. And then if you use the action button, you have to press and hold the action button to actually activate whatever you set it to do. So that in itself is also really slow versus just pressing the button and then it works. Or even double tapping would be faster than pressing and holding the button. I understand they do that for confirmation to make sure you know what you want to do type of thing, but it's just very slow and inconvenient. And then you also have the option of you putting shortcuts on the home screen to activate them. And that's probably like the fastest option, because you just tap in and then you can tap the next thing that pops up, and that's cool. But again, it's just so much more work to do simple things. Like the reason why I set up the edge panel on the iPhone is so that I can access, you know, any app or specific apps that I use frequently anywhere on the phone. It just helps with like jumping through the phone rather than having to swipe up, go home, find the app, or swipe up then swipe down to search for the app. I can just access the app with my shortcuts. That's why I set it up. So yeah, in general, using the iPhone 16 Pro Max as my main computer, as a work device, it's not it, man. It's not it. And yeah, I'm gonna have more videos exactly like this where I go through my attempts of using specific devices as my main computer and my main work device. So stay tuned for that. I got other devices coming through like the Z Fold 6, iPad Pro, and other devices. So I guess this is kind of like another series that I'm starting, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss those videos. But yeah, this was my experience with the iPhone 16 Pro Max as my main computer. And yeah, we out. Peace.